In the summer of 1985, a Catholic priest by the name of Father Molloy was found dead under perplexing conditions. A narrative as ancient as history, a man of faith, and an unholy demise. The incident took place at Kilcourcy House, a grand property in Clara, County Offaly. The room was chaos, with signs of a brutal confrontation. The carpet, previously a status symbol, now bore a large, menacing bloodstain. Father Molloy, a revered community figure, was discovered in the bedroom of the high-profile Flynn family's abode. The Flynns, known figures of society, were the last witnesses to his life. Richard Flynn, the family patriarch, was subsequently accused of the crime. An alarming discovery given the Flynns' social reputation, but as the saying goes, looks can be deceiving. The plot took an unforeseen detour when, in a twist akin to a legal drama, Richard Flynn was astonishingly acquitted. A judicious directive by a judge, who happened to be a family acquaintance, resulted in this unexpected resolution. The courtroom held its breath. The public claimed injustice, but the gavel had fallen. The case, however, was far from straightforward. Medical proof suggested that Father Molloy may have lived had he obtained immediate medical attention. Was it a case of neglect, or was there a more menacing undertone? The case was further complicated by lost evidence, potential conflict of interest, and high-value items disappearing after Molloy's demise. Mystery, intrigue, and a high-profile accused, the case possessed all the features of a quintessential whodunit. Even with the media frenzy and public uproar, the case remained unresolved, the truth interred alongside Father Molloy. However, the narrative doesn't conclude here. In fact, the controversy surrounding Father Molloy's demise has only escalated over the decades. With the emergence of fresh evidence years later, the case of Father Molloy's death continues to trouble the memories of those implicated and fascinate truth seekers. But that's a narrative for another scene. Stay with us. The mystery is just starting to unfold. The sequence of events leading to Father Molloy's demise began at a wedding reception at the Flynn's residence. Visualize this. A festive environment filled with love, laughter and joy, morphing into an evening of terror. The Flynn's bedroom presented an eerie crime scene, indications of a violent altercation, a prominent bloodstain on the carpet, a scene that silently narrated a brutal clash. A clash that resulted in the untimely demise of Father Molloy. The subsequent investigation was tarnished by unexplainable phenomena. Valuable possessions vanished in a mysterious manner after Molloy's demise, and crucial evidence seemed to evaporate into oblivion. Quite a scenario for conspiracy enthusiasts, wouldn't you say? Enter Richard Flynn, the individual at the heart of the entire situation. Accused of manslaughter and assault, he was unwillingly pushed into the limelight. His trial became a hot topic, a real-life legal spectacle. But this was no Hollywood screenplay. This was reality, with genuine consequences. Accusations swirled around the trial like a menacing storm. Rumors of police corruption and political manipulation filled the courtroom air. The judge, a family friend of Flynn, instructed the jury to render a verdict that resulted in Flynn's acquittal. An unanticipated turn of events, wouldn't you concur? Yet, the narrative became even more convoluted. Medical findings suggested that Father Molloy could have lived with prompt medical attention. Was this a situation of lethal neglect or a calculated action to ensure Father Molloy's eternal silence? The labyrinth of queries became more intricate, the solutions increasingly hard to find. Flynn's description of the incident, which surfaced years after, added another facet of mystery. It implied a more brutal assault than initially reported to law enforcement and hinted at a complicated relationship between him and Father Molloy. Was this a confession, a plea for absolution, or a meticulously constructed narrative to manipulate the story? Despite the trial, the case remains concealed in ambiguity, leaving more questions than answers. The curtains fell on the trial, but the stage was prepared for a mystery that continues to perplex and captivate to this day. Fast forward to 2010, the case that had been seemingly put to rest resurfaced, triggering a fresh examination by the Garda Serious Crime Review team. The dormant mystery surrounding Father Molloy's death had awakened, introducing a renewed flurry of whispers and murmurs. This revival was not baseless. Fresh evidence had surfaced, modifying the narrative of the fateful night back in 1985. The scene remained unaltered. The wedding reception at the Flynn family's residence, the confrontation, and the fatal injuries. However, the story had a new spin. RTE, a leading media organisation, played a crucial role in this new development. They managed to secure 3 key documents, inclusive of Flynn's detailed version of his married life and the events leading up to Father Molloy's tragic end. These documents were not just an alternate point of view, they indicated that Flynn's actions that fatal night were much more severe than his initial confession to the authorities. These documents detail events of a relationship Flynn saw as uncomfortably close. His wife and Father Molloy had grown quite fond of each other over the years. In one report, Flynn found his wife sleeping in bed next to Molloy. The documents further explored the influence of the psychiatric assessment on the case's outcome. These documents were a turning point. They appended a fresh dimension to the case, stirring up even more questions. However, one thing became undeniably clear. The case of Father Niall Molloy was far from simplistic. These documents, throwing fresh light on the case, suggested that Flynn's actions that night were far more serious than his initial confession. As we delve deeper into the case, we'll discover that the mystery surrounding Father Molloy's death is far from resolved. Despite the fresh evidence and renewed interest, Father Molloy's death remains an unsolved puzzle. This captivating curiosity and obscurity lingers on, veiled in the uncertainties and guesswork. The case, brimming with discrepancies and dubious decisions, demonstrates the sway of a psychiatric evaluation that might have possibly tilted the judgment. The examination was a part of the defense strategy, a strategic move that could have played a crucial role in Richard Flynn's acquittal. Unraveling this part of the case is akin to peeling an onion, each layer revealing additional complexities and ambiguities that only intensify the puzzle. The narrative takes a somber twist with the demise of Richard Flynn in 2017. His death marked the finale of a life interlaced with the mystery of Father Molloy's death. The man who was once the focal point of this convoluted riddle was no more, leaving behind unresolved queries and a path of conjecture. However, the story doesn't conclude here. The persistent quest for justice by Father Molloy's family keeps the case in the spotlight. Their staunch commitment to unmask the truth fuels their consistent efforts for a commission of inquiry. Their aspiration is to finally put together the jigsaw puzzle that is Father Molloy's untimely departure. The path to discovering the truth is frequently a serpentine trail, marked by dead ends and diversions. But it's a path that must be embarked upon, for the truth, as elusive as it might be, can shine a light on the darkest of mysteries, illuminating the way to justice. Nevertheless, the mystery surrounding Father Molloy's death persists. The truth of that ill-fated night at Kilcourcy House stays buried, awaiting to be unearthed. The key to deciphering this enigma lies hidden, shrouded in the silence and sands of time. Thus, the enigmatic case of Father Niall Molloy continues to captivate and confound, a crime tale without a definite conclusion. Father Niall Molloy's death is more than just a crime tale. It's a narrative about justice or its absence. The lingering, unanswered details about Father Molloy's death have had a lasting impact on the Irish justice system and raised far-reaching questions. These queries aren't only about the specifics of a single case from the mid-80s, but about responsibility, the hunt for truth, and the core essence of justice. Following the case's resurgence in 2010, the emergence of new evidence and revelations has further complicated the mystery. Despite these advancements, the case remains unresolved, its details as hazy as a forgotten lake's waters. However, this is no longer just about a priest's death in a County Offaly residence. It's about a system that allowed such a crime to remain unresolved, and questions about how justice was or wasn't meted out. Father Molloy's case's enduring legacy extends beyond the confines of true crime aficionados and into the wider discussion about justice in Ireland. It serves as a stark reminder that justice postponed is justice denied, a truth that resonates deeply in this case. It's a rallying cry, a demand for accountability and openness from a system that has failed to provide answers in this situation. The case has etched an unforgettable mark on Ireland's collective psyche, a constant reminder of the quest for truth and the unanswered questions. The legacy of Father Molloy's case is not closure, but a continuous uncertainty, a mystery that continues to enthrall, exasperate, and require answers. As the mystery persists, so does the pursuit of justice. And maybe one day the truth about Father Niall Molloy's fate will finally be revealed.
In the depths of North Dublin, an infamous character ascended to supremacy. Eamon Dunne, colloquially known as the Don, commanded a savage crew embroiled in narcotics trafficking, violent theft, and lethal acts. From the rugged lanes of Finglas, a district in North Dublin, surfaced an individual destined to be one of the most dreaded entities in the city's illicit substratum. Eamon Dunne, ominously dubbed the Don, didn't merely chance upon a life of misdemeanors. Instead, he aggressively climbed the ladder, filling the void left by the previous mob lord, Martin Marlowe Hyland, following his assassination in 2006. The Don's elevation was far from a tranquil succession. It was an aggressive coup resulting in a regime of fear, with Dunne's moniker tied to at least 17 gangland homicides. This man was more than a figurehead. He was the puppeteer manipulating the gears, guiding an orchestra of brutality that held his rivals at bay and his authority unopposed. Yet it wasn't merely Dunne's ferocity that made him a daunting commander. It was his astuteness, his strategic intellect that kept his crew one step ahead. However, like many despots who rule with a rod of iron, Dunne's era was marred by suspicion. Anxiety was his ceaseless companion, fueling his volatile and unpredictable demeanor. As we're all aware, dread and authority are a combustible mix. Indeed, the tighter Dunne held on, the more he laid the groundwork for his own collapse. His progressively erratic conduct resulted in internal discord, with murmurs of treachery and deceit reverberating in the murky recesses of the underworld. Yet, as we understand, dominion draws foes, and Dunne's epic wasn't perpetual. For the Don, the fortifications of his empire were soon to crumble, toppled not by the law, but by the very beasts he had bred. After all, in the underworld, allegiance is as transient as a shadow in the darkness. In the spring of 2010, Eamon Dunne, also known as the Don, reveled in a birthday celebration at a tavern in Cabra. Unbeknownst to him, it would be his final festive gathering. That ill-fated evening, despite the looming tension from several disconcerting phone calls, Dunne remained cheerful. One such call was from an incarcerated gangster who suspected Dunne of romancing his girlfriend. The unsettling dialogue did nothing to placate the festive atmosphere. As the evening advanced, jubilant laughter and the clink of glasses echoed throughout the tavern until the abrupt arrival of two cloaked figures. The atmosphere intensified as their malicious intentions dawned upon the patrons. Dunne, always the strategist, attempted to shield himself with a young lounge attendant, but his attackers were prepared. The grisly aftermath that ensued is not for those with a weak constitution. A dozen shots were fired, with the majority of the bullets finding their residence in Dunne. The first shooter performed a Mozambique drill, a grotesque statement requiring 2 shots to the body and 1 to the head. In an action of redundancy and overstatement, the second shooting reenacted the drill after Eamon's lifeless body was already lying on the floor. The shocking act was both swift and brutal, rendering the tavern's patrons aghast. In a milieu that was once brimming with mirth, a terrifying act of brutality unfolded. Dunne, a figure synonymous with crime and violence, met a demise reflective of his life. The bystanders, including Dunne's 17-year-old daughter, could only bear witness in horror as the Don was mercilessly executed. The suspicion of an inside job, fueled by Dunne's erratic behavior and escalating paranoia, hovered over the murder. However, despite the 9 arrests connected to the crime, justice remains elusive. A chilling act of violence forever tarnished the joyous memory of that evening. In the aftermath of Dunne's assassination, the metropolis was plunged into dismay. The erstwhile overlord of Dublin's underworld had suddenly become a sensational news story. The chilling repercussions of such a bold act of brutality were as bone-chilling as the offense itself. Eamon Dunne, the infamous mob boss, met his untimely end at the Fassaw House pub, leaving a vortex of lingering queries that still cast its shadow over the city. Swiftly, law enforcement began their extensive inquiry into the demise of the Don. They encountered an intricate labyrinth of criminal bonds and hostilities, further obfuscated by Dunne's own erratic tendencies and unpredictable demeanor. The scene of the crime depicted a premeditated homicide, with a dozen rounds discharged, 8 of which delivered lethal injuries to Dunne's cranium and critical organs. Speculation swiftly veered toward the likelihood of insider knowledge assisting the perpetrators. Dunne, after all, was no average inhabitant. He was a figure who dwelled in obscurity, perpetually vigilant. So, how was he caught defenseless in a public setting, under his own daughter's watchful eyes? Could there have been a traitor within Dunne's inner circle, someone privy to his patterns and habits? These were the dilemmas that tormented the detectives. However, as the calendar pages turned, the inquiry hit an impasse. Despite the high-profile character of the case and the crowd of onlookers present during the ghastly event, justice remained elusive. The verdict was a cryptic, unlawful killing by unidentified individuals, underscoring the enigmatic nature of the offense. The slaying of Eamon Dunne, a man associated with 17 underworld homicides, a man who both lived and perished by the sword, sent tremors through Dublin's criminal habitat. His demise signified the closure of an epoch, and simultaneously, the inception of an enigma that remains unresolved. Regardless of crime's infamy and the presence of numerous witnesses, the conundrum of who eliminated the Dawn lingers undeciphered. Although Dunne's presence has ceased, his influence still echoes through the shadows of Dublin's streets. The Dawn wielded a power that elicited both reverence and dread in equal parts. His dominion over Dublin's underworld was characterized by brutality, coercion, and a tyrannical control that etched itself into the city's fabric. Dunne's faction was far from a band of minor ruffians, but a sophisticated syndicate engaged in narcotics trafficking, armed heists, and even homicide. The Dawn's rule was ironclad, his leadership exemplified by merciless efficiency. Yet his paranoia and erratic tendencies proved to be his nemesis, instigating his own followers to conspire against him. His demise signaled a pivotal change in the balance of power within Dublin's underbelly. The aftermath was swift and wide-ranging. The ripple effect of Dunne's assassination led to 9 apprehensions, shaking the foundation of the criminal empire he had established. Nonetheless, the void created by Dunne's exit was rapidly occupied. The formidable Christie Kinahan crime network seized the chance to broaden its influence, further entrenching itself within the criminal territory. Dunne's legacy persists in the terror he sowed amongst his adversaries. The notorious Fassaw House pub incident, where Dunne fell prey to his assailants in the presence of his own progeny, stands as a spine-chilling testament to the savagery of the underworld. The perpetrator's continued evasion of justice, despite several detentions, intensifies the aura of dread and ambiguity that enshrouds his moniker. The Dawn's chronicle is far from a saga of valor or dignity. It's a narrative of supremacy, suspicion, and eventual collapse. It serves as a stark parable of the harsh truth of the underworld existence, where allegiance is transient and might is the sole coinage of value. In a realm governed by might and terror, the Dawn's rule met a gruesome terminus. His narrative stands as a harrowing emblem of existence and demise in the criminal world.
Envision a chilly winter day in Dublin, Ireland, the 5th of February, 2016. The metropolis hums with activity, yet a facade masks the truth. The Regency Hotel, a symbol of opulence and privacy, towers over the icy horizon. A day unremarkable save for a thrilling boxing affair scheduled within the hotel's majestic ballroom. Concurrently, an individual named David Byrne, infamous for his criminal past rather than commendable endeavours, resides within the hotel. His legacy, often murmured in Dublin's clandestine underworld, is synonymous with the feared Kinahan gang. Byrne, a man who lived in the shadows, possesses an intricate web of illegal operations embedded in his biography. The Kinahan gang, a moniker that instills dread in Dublin's law enforcement, dabbles in boxing promotion and is implicated in a myriad of criminal deeds. Byrne's affiliation is not accidental, but a strategic alliance, one that ultimately thrusts him into a perilous predicament. As Dublin proceeds, blissfully oblivious to the gathering tempest within the Regency Hotel, the countdown to a lethal climax begins. The hotel, once celebrated for its history and charm, is on the verge of being engraved in Dublin's annals for a much more sinister reason. The scene is primed, the actors are ready, and Dublin, in its frosty glory, remains unsuspecting of the imminent pandemonium. As the city advances, unknowing, a malevolent scheme unravels within the confines of the Regency Hotel. In the heart of Dublin's Regency Hotel, now known as the Bonington, a horrendous crime transpires amid a boxing event. February 5th, 2016, a date that seared itself into memory, was supposed to host a regular weigh-in ceremony. Unexpectedly, it morphed into a ghastly spectacle of bloodshed. The intended victim is presumed to be Daniel Kinahan, a notorious figure in the realm of organised crime. Yet, in a cruel twist of fate, it is not Kinahan but Irish offender David Byrne who meets an untimely demise. Connected to the Kinahan gang through a convoluted web of criminal affiliations, Byrne found himself ensnared in deadly crosshairs. As the gunshots abated and terrified screams subsided, Byrne remained motionless, a casualty of this calamitous assault. The incident was far from random. Byrne's links to the Kinahan gang suggest a purposeful act, a stark testament to the ferocity of gang warfare. The four assailants, two of whom were disguised as Garda Emergency Response and carrying AK-47 assault rifles, vanished as swiftly as they had appeared, leaving a shattered crowd and a macabre tableau behind. The hotel subsequently became a spectral reminder of the atrocity, its name change perhaps a futile effort to erase the gruesome past. The news of Byrne's brutal end sent ripples through Dublin and the world beyond, a saga of organised crime, unbridled violence, and a man ensnared in a deadly ambush unfolds. The echoes of the fatal gunshots still reverberate, a grim echo of a day when a sports event transformed into a grisly crime scene. The culprits have evaporated into obscurity, leaving behind a lifeless Byrne as the dust descends. In the aftermath of the heinous event, law enforcement frantically endeavoured to decipher the riddle of Byrne's demise. This wasn't your typical inquiry. The stakes were astronomical, the involved personas were as captivating as they were treacherous, and the narrative was as dense as a traditional Irish chowder. The primary suspect was no ordinary citizen, it was Patrick Hutch. Hutch was accused of the deadly act, an audacious step that reverberated through Dublin's criminal fraternity. But life, akin to a riveting crime novel, is laden with surprises. On April 2023, Hutch was exonerated. The individual initially painted as the prime instigator walked free, as if the crux of the mystery had evaporated. Hold your breath, for the intrigue intensifies. Jonathan Dowdall and his father then grace the stage. Here's a pair that could outdo the infamous Bonnie and Clyde. They not only confessed to their participation in the crime, but also pled guilty to abetting the act. Their admittance threw everyone off balance, causing the course of the investigation to veer dramatically. With the Dowdalls' admission, the probe seemed to pick up speed. But just like a labyrinth, every step taken could either inch you closer to resolution or thrust you further into chaos. The Dowdalls' guilty plea triggered more queries than it resolved. Their precise role in the homicide, how they facilitated it, and above all, their motive. Despite the convictions, the enigma encompassing Byrne's death only deepened. As time marched on, the Regency Hotel rebirthed as Bonington, yet the reverberations of history proved stubbornly persistent. Progression of the city was punctuated by sinister happenings within the Regency's confines, instigating a seismic shift. The once sought-after retreat morphed into a spectral echo of the malevolent deeds unfurled on a winter's day in 2016. In an endeavour to disassociate from its eerie history, the lodging underwent a metamorphosis, taking the name Bonington. A renewed beginning, perhaps, but vestiges of history persisted in its hallways, a mute relic to the delinquency that jolted the city. This transgression did not merely impact the hotel, it generated waves throughout Dublin, tainting its reputation. The metropolis, famous for its lively ambience and congeniality, now harboured a grimmer narrative. A narration of brutality, power conflicts, and illicit syndicates lurking in obscurity. And as for the criminal nexus itself, the demise of Byrne, a known affiliate of the Kinahan faction, added fuel to the fire of a prevailing feud. It amplified discord and incited a chain of vengeful assaults, as adversary groups vied for supremacy. The deadly episode at the Regency Hotel was not an isolated event, but a piece of a broader, intricate saga of crime and supremacy in Dublin. The repercussions of the transgression penetrated the justice system. The initial indictment of murder against Patrick Hutch, subsequently absolved, and the admission of guilt by Jonathan Dowdall and his father in abetting the homicide contributed to this multifaceted web of justice, delinquency, and reprisal. Thus, the narrative of David Byrne's demise stands as a chilling testament to Dublin's nefarious criminal underworld. Ultimately, the truth remains as elusive as the malefactors themselves. As we close this chronicle, a bone-chilling tableau awaits. Dublin's Regency Hotel, the 5th of February 2016, a date and place notorious for the untimely death of David Byrne. The foreboding presence of Daniel Kinahan, the supposed prey, amplifies the mystery. Byrne, a man recognised for his frequent legal troubles, was allied with the Kinahan faction. His death, ignited by a dispute at a boxing match, penned a fresh saga in the city's crime annals. The plot thickens with the introduction of Patrick Hutch, initially indicted but subsequently exonerated in April 2023. The Dowdall duo, father and son, who admitted to aiding the crime, add further knots to this convoluted tale. At the epicenter, the Bonington, formerly the Regency Hotel, silently testifies to the crime, its name alteration, a feeble effort to detach itself from the somber history. We bid you adieu with this narrative of guile and brutality, a stark admonition that occasionally reality can surpass the strangest of tales.
In the core of Dublin, 2016, a seemingly typical evening was on the brink of morphing into something rather sinister. Visualize this: the Sunset House pub, a vivacious scene pulsating with the hum of conversation and the clinking of glasses. Center stage, we have Michael Barr, a 35-year-old native of Ireland. A resident of Strabane, County Tyrone, he's notorious for his affiliations with the Irish Republican Army, a contentious association that stirred quite a bit of talk. The evening is in its infancy, and the pub's patrons are enthusiastically engaged in a raffle event, their anticipation almost tangible. Yet despite the vibrant atmosphere, a dark cloud hangs over Michael. It's not the frosty pint in his hand sending chills down his spine, it's the imminent threat to his life. His involvement in illicit activities and clashes with the Irish National Liberation Army has made him a marked man. He's cognizant of the peril, but for tonight, he's just one among the crowd, blending into the laughter and banter that fills the room. Unbeknown to him and the rest of the pub-goers, death was stealthily inching closer. Time marched forward, ignorant of the looming catastrophe. Amidst the cheerful times, two disguised figures wearing what witnesses claimed were Freddy Krueger masks slipped into the Sunset House pub, their sinister aura instantly interjecting an air of tension into the jovial atmosphere. Out from beneath their cloaks, they unveiled a pair of pistols, their steel glimmering ominously under the pub's dim lighting. In the blink of an eye, the once lively pub was plunged into of chaos and dread. The room was filled with the deafening sounds of gunshots, each one a chilling reminder of the impending doom. Their target was one man, Michael Barr, the father of 5, and the manager of the establishment. Each fired bullet found its mark, 4 to his head and 2 in his torso, extinguishing Barr's life in a gruesome spectacle of violence. Panic ensued as the patrons scrambled to escape the deadly attack, their screams echoing in the otherwise silent pub. Meanwhile, the two assailants remained undeterred, their focus unwavering and their actions deliberate. When the final shot had been fired and the horrifying scene came to an end, the shooters disappeared as swiftly as they had arrived. What they left behind was a room filled with horror and disbelief, a chilling tableau of violence. The once vibrant Sunset House pub had been transformed into a horrifying crime scene. After the carnage, the quest for justice took its first steps. The Dublin police dedicated themselves to detailed scrutiny of the crime scene, their attention focused on the barely recognizable Michael Barr and his violent end. Among the chaos, investigators stumbled upon a crucial revelation: a torched car not far from the pub. Within the charred shell of the vehicle, masks and gloves discarded in haste by the culprits were discovered. These items, overlooked by the common eye, held within them the seeds of a breakthrough in the investigation. The forensic team began their meticulous examination, searching for even the smallest trace of DNA left by the culprits. Their efforts bore fruit when the DNA evidence obtained from these discarded items provided the investigators with a substantial lead. The DNA trail pointed towards Christopher Slater, who soon found the police's spotlight on him. However, the trail didn't end there. The same DNA evidence linked other suspects to the crime scene, making the mystery surrounding Barr's murder even more complex. As any seasoned investigator knows, patience is the key in the world of crime solving. Slowly, the pieces of the puzzle started snapping into place. The masks, the gloves, the torched car, and the DNA evidence all began to shape the chilling picture of a carefully planned execution. But as the investigators dug deeper, they found themselves facing the ominous realization that they were dealing with more than just a random act of violence. The murder of Michael Barr was just a fragment of a much larger, much more sinister puzzle. As more pieces fell into place, the investigators found themselves being led down a grim path. As the gavel resonated, the echoes of justice filled the courtroom, a palpable sound that marked the commencement of a grueling legal battle. The trial process was an intense one, brimming with palpable tension and suspense, as each piece of the puzzle was carefully unveiled. The courtroom morphed into a battlefield, with prosecutors and defense attorneys locked in a fierce struggle for narrative control. Amidst this tumult, the jury sat in silent observation. The immense responsibility of determining the fate of the accused fell squarely on their shoulders. Despite the courtroom's tense atmosphere, the pursuit for justice was far from over. It was relentless, unwavering, and as each verdict was delivered, it served as a stark reminder of the law's ability to hold individuals accountable for their actions, regardless of the circumstances. The echoes of the gavel's strike, although fading, served as testament to the ongoing pursuit for justice. Following the crime, the community was left in a state of mourning and reflection. Hundreds gathered for the funeral of Michael Barr, with many wearing paramilitary-style attire. This served as a stark representation of his life's intricacies and the societal repercussions of his death. Amidst profound sorrow, Barr's family found themselves steadfast for justice. In later testimony, Barr's sister revealed his fear before the murder and turned down an apology and compensation from an emissary of mob boss Daniel Kinahan. Ultimately, a total of 5 members were charged and brought to trial, 4 of whom were convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment. However, with the crime family ties running as deep as they do, it's hard to tell if these men were just merely fall guys to take the rap and end any further inquiries. The narrative concludes with the eerie reminiscence of that horrific night, lingering in the minds of those who knew Michael Barr. In Dublin's heart, the life of a unique shopkeeper, Séamus Dwyer, ended abruptly and tragically. Not just any shopkeeper, Dwyer was a significant protagonist in early 20th century Ireland's turbulent period. This multifaceted individual was a politician, intelligence officer, judge, and member of the Rathmines Urban Council. His unwavering support for the Sinn Féin party saw him elected as a Taoiseach Dála in the Second Dáil. His backing of the contentious Anglo-Irish Treaty marked his political endeavors, a move that put him in direct opposition with those who viewed the treaty as a betrayal of the Irish struggle. Beyond politics, he served as an intelligence officer for the Dublin Brigade of the Irish Republican Army, playing a crucial role in the Irish independence fight. His pivotal presence in the Peace Committee of 10 in May 1922 helped an agreement between Michael Collins and Eamon de Valera. Beyond his political endeavors and Secret Service, he contributed to his community by running an off-license grocery store in Rathmines. Amid political turmoil and the independence fight, he never failed to serve his fellow citizens. His intriguing personal life was marked by a stable marriage despite the surrounding chaos, though he was childless. Balancing his political and personal life, however, may have led to his eventual demise. Despite his noteworthy contributions to the Irish struggle, his endorsement of the Anglo-Irish Treaty turned him into a target for its opposers. On December 20th, 1922, Dwyer's life met a devastating end. As dawn broke on that fateful day, Dublin was slowly stirring to life. Amidst the awakening city, Séamus Dwyer, an eminent figure in Irish politics and an intelligence officer for the Dublin Brigade of the IRA, began his day with tea and the morning press. Dwyer's home was also his off-license and grocery shop based in Rathmines, where he spent his mornings catering to customers, stocking shelves, and occasionally delving into political discussions. Despite his significant position, Dwyer was a simple man, deeply connected to his community. The day unfolded with Dwyer attending to his work, the shop buzzing with the familiar faces of locals shopping for Christmas and the scent of fresh goods. Unaware of the lurking danger, Dwyer continued his duties as the crowd thinned out with the setting sun. Meanwhile, Robert Bonfield, a dissenting IRA volunteer, was poised to act, driven by Dwyer's advocacy for the contentious Anglo-Irish Treaty. As Dwyer was wrapping up for the day, Bonfield was awaiting the opportune moment to attack. As twilight fell, Dwyer was ready to close the shop. It was then that Bonfield seized his moment. Walking directly up to Séamus, he led with a simple question. "Are you Mr. Dwyer?" Séamus acknowledged that he was and was met with an ominous response. "I have a note for you," Bonfield intimated. Reaching for the inside of his turncoat, Bonfield revealed a revolver and point-blank shot Séamus Dwyer twice in the chest. Robert Bonfield, a dissident IRA volunteer, held the smoking gun. His motivation? Let's explore Bonfield's rationale, his political leanings, and his connection to Dwyer. Bonfield, a 1st Dublin Brigade of the IRA and a fervent opponent of the treaty, was starkly contrasted with Dwyer's pro-treaty stance. The Anglo-Irish Treaty was a divisive point of conflict between the IRA and the nation. Dwyer and Bonfield stood on disparate sides of this divide. Bonfield, viewing the treaty as a treacherous statement of the hard-fought Irish Republic, couldn't reconcile with Dwyer's perspective of the treaty as a bridge to full Irish independence, a compromise for peace. This ideological rift would ultimately fan the flames of deadly discord. But what tied Bonfield to Dwyer? They were IRA members, true, but their connection ran deeper. Dwyer wasn't just a political rival, but an intelligence officer for the IRA's Dublin Brigade. He held secrets that could jeopardize dissidents like Bonfield, instilling a personal motive and fear in Bonfield. The era was tense. The treaty transformed comrades into adversaries. The IRA fractured into pro- and anti-treaty camps, fighting bitterly for supremacy. Amidst this turmoil, a man could lose his life for his political stance. And so, Robert Bonfield, compelled by his ideologies and personal apprehensions, targeted Dwyer. It was an act both politically and personally driven, reflecting the strife of the era. In an instant, political divergence spiraled into lethal conflict. The gunshot's echo gave way to a deafening hush, steeped in shock and sorrow. Post-Dwyer's assassination, Dublin's normally vibrant streets descended into an unnerving quiet. The bustling city, typically brimming with energy, was now engulfed by a noticeable wave of grief and incredulity. News of the political figure's demise spread rapidly. The trusted community servant was no more. The repercussions of Dwyer's death resonated within the community. His grocery, once a lively meeting place, now stood as a solemn tribute to the calamity that had occurred. The usually jovial shopkeeper was replaced with an oppressive air of sadness. Trade dwindled, the familiar bustle of business replaced by muted whispers and compassionate looks. The Rathmines Urban Council, where Dwyer served, reeled in disbelief, his vacant chair a stark symbol of the gap left behind. The political arena was irrevocably changed, and a key participant was abruptly eliminated. For Dwyer's family, the grief was unbearable. The husband and supportive pillar was taken mercilessly, leaving no children behind, adding to the sorrow of his premature passing. His wife, abruptly widowed, was forced to traverse her grief alone. The aftermath of Dwyer's assassination marked a turbulent period of mourning. The community wrestled with their loss, their sadness reflecting Dwyer's impact. His death underscored the brutal realities of political conflict. Dwyer's death imprinted a lasting scar on Dublin, a chilling caution of the price of political strife. Dwyer's existence may have been tragically abbreviated, yet his legacy endures. Séamus Dwyer, a crucial figure in early 20th century Irish politics and intelligence, met an abrupt demise that sent reverberations through the political world, inciting a wave of sorrow and outrage, amplifying the heated debates of the era. His assassination was not merely a savage act, but a glaring emblem of Ireland's profound internal strife during the Civil War. As a fervent advocate of the contentious Anglo-Irish Treaty, his death represented a critical juncture, a solemn reminder of the extreme measures some would undertake for their convictions. Nevertheless, Dwyer's legacy transcends the grisly nature of his end. As a Dale Court judge and Sinn Féin Teach Dadala, he wielded considerable power in politics. Additionally, his pivotal role in the 10-man Peace Committee of May 1922, resulting in an accord between Michael Collins and Eamon de Valera, displays his dedication to harmony and advancement. In the aftermath of his death and funeral proceedings, justice was carried out before the courts could get involved. Two Republicans, Frank Lawler and the actual assassin Bobby Bonfield, were later killed by clandestine Free State forces in revenge for the shooting of Séamus Dwyer. Ultimately, Dwyer's tale is a chilling exemplification of the destructive force of political discord. However, it simultaneously illuminates the critical essence of unity, tranquility, and local involvement during contentious periods.